The discovery of oil in Nigeria has had a blinding effect on the country's economy. For decades, the export structure has been built heavily on crude oil. As it stands today, the petroleum industry accounts for about 9% of Nigeria's GDP. Mineral fuel, oils, and distillation products generate around 94% of all export value. The global energy economy is undergoing structural changes that would affect demand for Nigeria's oil. Volatility of oil prices, concerns over climate change, and falling prices of renewable technologies all result in a reduction in demand for fossil fuel products, leaving Nigeria's economy more vulnerable. No country can depend on one economic sector for its development, especially as the wealth generated by oil only reaches a restricted share of all Nigerians. Rising population and inflation rate means the national development part is now directed towards the diversification of the economy with a focus on the agricultural and manufacturing sectors. The average share of the Nigerian population suffering from severe food insecurity has been rising. Agriculture provides livelihood for many Nigerians, with some 70% of households in Nigeria participating in crop farming activities and almost 41% raise or own livestock. The country is well suited for diversification and the government's increased investment with a number of federal and state programs to improve small-scale farming, access for young people, and education. This is the right step forward, but to make the transition successful, Nigeria must improve upon security for farmers, technology, and fair access to government initiatives.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Funmi Iyanda, and this is Public Eye. Today's conversation is going to be about agriculture. Ever since I was little, I have heard it said in Nigeria that Nigeria needs to diversify from oil. In fact, as soon as oil was discovered in Nigeria, it seems to be that the conversation was Nigeria needs to diversify from oil. So now Nigeria has very little choice other than to diversify from oil, because we are going into a world where apparently oil will be the no-go product. So how is this diversification going to occur? Who will be the drivers of a new economy centered around agriculture? In fact, should we be talking about agriculture as a fulcrum of progressive development for Nigeria? Is that peering back to the past, or is it a futuristic idea? Well, these are the tenets of our conversations today. I have the right people in the studio to have it with, and there you are at home to have it with me. So we'll take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll start the conversation.
I'm Mr. Kasim Adisa, the Chief Imam in General of Okwabeland. Yeah, I've been farming about 13 years ago.
Okay.
Because although I have some other business, because I'm an aluminum fabricator.
Okay.
And this farm, I know about it very well. I'm using people to cultivate the farm. I have some guys, some boys working on them. So I'm working it with my own capital. If I can see government to assist me, that one is okay. Now, before, when my cassava is mature, I'm selling it at fresh. But now, we are processing it into fufu. We are supplying other villages in outside, or that in town. That is what we are using in it now. We are processing it into fufu. Immediately they root it and bag it, so that we call for bike. The bike will take it from here to town. If we want to cross it, they will cross it through boat. But before that, we are using it to processing fufu. So when they will peel it, we call people for peel. They will peel it and soak it 3 or 4 days. After that, they will filter it. So they will bag it into the sack. It will go to final consumption. But the first most important thing in this area, we need a road infrastructure. Even if we have manure or fertilizer, whatever, for the annual routine, if you want to take your achieve your farm or whatever you want to route it, you have to have a reasonable road or motorable road. There is no road entirely, but we are just struggling to construct the one that we are building. So we need road. We need road and assist from government. In farm, we have faced a lot of challenges. This year, before rain starting to be shower in this place, it's not 3 days ago, rain just started to be shower. And the farm we cultivate this year, some of them have died because of the water. We need their support for borehole, farm equipment. We need it from government to satisfy our Lagos State or this country. In this country, we need it financially from government. We need capital support to embrace our country. That is what I think.
Right, welcome back. It's Public Eye, and our conversation today is about agriculture. So now, why are we talking about agriculture? Really, we were going to start talking about oil. For the kids, oil was discovered in Nigeria in the 50s, and quickly, Nigeria abandoned everything else to focus on oil. In that time, Nigeria made a lot of money from oil and spent a lot of money off oil. In that time, billions of money that could have gone into all sorts of things did not go into what it should because, well, we depended on oil. 9% of our GDP is oil. 90% of our export is oil. Let that sink in. It means that we could do so much more. We could do 91% more. And then oil could be a backup. But really, what should replace oil? That conversation today will be what we'll be talking about. And I'm pleased to start this conversation with somebody that I have a lot of affection for and who knows her onions. Ms. Saratu Abiola is here. Saratu is a writer, communication expert, and she is she's the project lead for Grow Food Security Advocacy. Grow Food. It's amazing that you have to be told to grow food for security. Saratu has worked with farmers across Nigeria to strengthen the agricultural value chain. I try to break the grammar down often here because that means that from one point to the other, the whole value chain of agriculture. And she's also curated something that I found, I don't know how she did it at that time. It was because she did it at the height of the Boko Haram crisis. She was creating a archival project of spoken testimonials from Nigerians trapped in the middle of all of that insurgency at that time. Saratu, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Very good to see you.
Likewise.
Right, Saratu. You like to cook and you like to eat.
That is true, I do.
Is that your only interest in agriculture?
Oh, no. I think of agriculture as also something to think. I mean, you're right, like you rightly mentioned, there's so much more that we could do to diversify the economy. But even, the focus on oil also has a more insidious challenge as well. Only 0.4% of our employment, the labor force is hired in oil, and but agriculture is, over 30%. I think over half, like almost half of our employment, people in the labor force are employed in agriculture. So
say that slowly, because what that means is that only 4% of people are employed. 0.4% of people
about 65.
It's a very extractive, it's a taking industry. It's not a giving industry in that way. Whereas agriculture, which we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of properly, already employs about 30%.
Yeah, I mean, the lowest end of the estimate is 30%. I've also heard 70, I've heard 50, but the lowest estimate is 30% or 35% of the overall labor force, is employed in agriculture. So why that's important to note is that if majority of your of your income as a country comes from 0.4%, right? You have a situation whereby it almost removes governance and and the way that it makes money from majority of the population. Why? Because you have a situation where you don't need too many people to be available, in order for the country to make money. You only need 0.4%. Where majority of our agriculture, one of the major problems with agriculture is that it's not really that productive, right? We're not producing nearly as much as we ought to, just given the lack of access to support for our small.
You know what I just noticed from what you said? If you need only 0.4 of your people to make 90% of the money of your people, you don't need your people.
That's exactly
and so the
right.
state can
Absolutely.
run without the people.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
And so you can have a state that is not people-focused.
Exactly. And so you can actually draw a straight line from our emphasis on oil to our the challenges that we have with holding government accountable, governments investing meaningfully in social investments, things like healthcare and education. If we had an economy that was more driven by what our people produce, the government would be under far more pressure to do more. That's my thesis in general that I can't quite prove, but I feel very strongly about.
I can see why you'd feel very strongly about it. Also, at the back of that is the issue that has led to a lot of insecurity across the country, where people feel, well, cheated.
Absolutely.
That this is taken from our land, and the idea of it is a bit preposterous. Yes, you get what I'm saying. In that you go to a people's land, you take what is theirs, and you give back to them what you want.
Exactly.
So the idea is a bit funny, but that's what we run. So, but that leads to a lot of resentment and anger, also to entitlement.
Absolutely.
On the other end. Because the idea is that some people are not doing as well as we are. Not actually, nobody's doing anything, but actually this is ours anyway. So those other people who have nothing, why are they getting? So it perpetuates a them against us mentality, which possibly fuels ethnic tensions. Are we stretching it too far?
I don't think we are, because a lot of the challenges Nigeria has are all interwoven. Yeah. They're very much linked. And it's the ability to see the big picture and see how it all links together is how we can begin to move forward, I think.
But the idea of agriculture as a panacea to the oil dependency has also been said to be a lazy thought that lacks creativity. They say that's what the unimaginative technocrat always puts forward as a solution. What do you think?
So here's the thing. Like I said, the major, most people in Nigeria get their employment from the agricultural sector, number one. The key driver of poverty in Nigeria is agricultural-led households, right? 60, I believe, according to the NBS figures, the recent inequality report, 68% of male-headed households with 10 or more members of the household are the largest drivers of poverty in Nigeria, right? Now, then you couple that with the, what poverty looks like in Nigeria, very often malnourishment in our children, stuntedness, low levels of income and all whatnot. People are already doing agriculture and they're not making a lot of money out of it, in agricultural productivity and whatnot. I don't think of focusing on agriculture so much as a lazy way out, but rather as identifying correctly that majority of the people that are poor in Nigeria are those that are in agricultural sector. And on the one hand. Number two, it is true that that their productivity levels are low because of an inability to improve their access to inputs. Even if you look at just West Africa, Nigeria has one of the lowest fertilizer uses in kilograms per hectare.
Yeah.
Even in West Africa, never mind Africa more broadly, right? So let's not compare apples to oranges. Even just in our region, we don't provide enough support to smallholder farmers. Majority of our smallholder farmers, a smallholder agriculture, about 70% of it is what produces our food, right? Now, also consider the fact that so it's these smallholder households who live in rural environment, the rural areas that are driving up poverty. So if you want to address the challenges of agriculture, it's one thing if you say that we've done everything and they're still poor, so let's pivot to another thing. You haven't done anything. And that's why people are still poor. Access to credits for agricultural enterprises is really low for smallholder farmers. I mean, on the one hand, if you're a bank, a lot of these people cannot read and write. They don't live in communities that are, close to the urban areas. They're very likely to have trouble accessing credits to grow their agriculture. So you need the state governments to engage with their people and ensure that the right people access, these public services. And that's usually where things get hairy. So, for example, you have a facility, X amount of money. They're very often going to just, okay, we want to give this amount of money to farmers. Anybody who can come through and say, I'm a farmer, and get that money. If you talk to folks at the NERSOL offices in different states, they will tell you in confidence that some government person will come with a list of people that you must give these people, right? So nepotism and corruption kind of enters the picture there. Because very often, there's a gap between the idea and what the government says on paper that they're doing, and then what actually happens on the ground, which is that farmers very often don't get access to the support that they need. And that happens far more often than the success stories of them getting what it is that they're supposed to get.
It's very interesting because ordinarily the way it should have happened in most societies is that the farmers actually are the bedrock of the society in the first instance. And there would have been no banking industry itself without the farmers, because what would happen is that when you start to scale what you are doing up, then you need this institution, that institution, just start to build on that. It's been the reverse in Nigeria, and that's, because of course, banking industry and all, you can ask the question, so who are you banking? And where's the money coming from? What's all that going from? So given where we are at now, what could change to make a difference?
I'm going to sound very boring right now, but it's really just improved governance. And the reason I say improved governance is that when you improve governance, you are able to meet people at the point of their need. People who have 100 hectares, 500 hectares, have very, very different needs from people who have 2 hectares or 1 hectare. And the lack of public services actually has a knock-on impact on the ability of smallholder farmers to come together, and I'll explain why. One of the benefits of smallholder farmer clusters, so farmer associations coming together, the reason why you want to do that if you're a farmer is because when you come together in a cluster with others, you are better able to access public services, because that's when you can get registered with the State Ministry of Agriculture. They will call you, we have tractors, or who wants to rent tractors? Okay, that kind of thing, right? Now, so you want to form a cooperative so that you're better able to access those goods and services that can also help you with your productivity. You can make more money as a result. What happens when government does not meet the right people, is not interested in engaging with the right stakeholders and ensuring that they have access to certain goods and services? The utility of those clusters starts to wind down. Suddenly the guy is like, I'm paying dues every month for what exactly? The technology that you people said you are going to bring, where is it? All these things, where is it? I want to harvest my rice. I don't have the harvesting machine for my rice. So what's now the point of being in a cluster? I beg, I'm not doing any cluster, Jerry. They will now stop paying dues and go back to their farms. And when you don't have access to certain goods and services, so for example, if you're a rice farmer, and I'm sure I think you have a rice farmer coming up to speak as well, he will tell you the importance of technology to harvest. If you don't have the right technology, the machine that harvests the rice also destones the rice. So it improves the quality of the rice, right? Because you don't have stones. That way, if I was a smallholder farmer and I have no stones in my rice, when I'm selling it to whoever I want to sell it to, I'm going to get a lot of money for that rice. It's grade A rice. It's good. Now, if I have money and I'm able to lease or buy that equipment on time, because with rice, you don't want to keep it in the ground for too long, right? So if I'm able to harvest that rice on time, perfect, that's excellent quality rice. Now, imagine if I don't have access to finance, I don't have access to technology, there's no cooperative that's going to help me. What happens? So you see how the inability to support smallholder farmers ends up having a knock-on impact. And, you know, ideally, you want to get to a point where smallholder, again, the point is not for them to remain small. You want them to grow like any other business. And right now, nobody's going to invest in smallholder farmers unless it's government, because it's frankly not viable. Somebody has half a hectare of something. You know, no one's going to, it's not enough. It's people that have like 100 hectares, 500 hectares, 1,000 hectares. Hey, oh yeah, come to the table, let us talk to you. But for smallholders, they do need government support. And unfortunately, majority of our food comes from there. So we're going to need to answer that question if we want to improve our food security.
So a lot of the people are angry today. I can foresee that they will be, as I always say, time is the cure.
Absolutely.
You know, so some age is catching. Everybody will get there. How do you get that? How do you prepare a new generation, for example, to know exactly what they need to do and to do it? You know, which includes, of course, taking over as need be.
Absolutely.
You know, but first, in agri, what should they be doing? I feel like there's enough knowledge amongst the people who should know.
I think two things. Number one, people don't see the big picture. That's why, you have your short-term goal of, let me just hammer and make money here and take money from this thing, because I want to buy a new car or a new house or go on holiday or something. But when you're able to see the big picture, just like you did earlier in your opening conversation, see the big picture of what it means. You know, how our agricultural productivity links to our food security, leads to nutrition, leads to our ability as a people to reduce poverty. All of those things, then hopefully people will have a bit more respect as they approach these issues and be able to think with a more long-term goal in mind than just the pecuniary interest of, let me hammer now. Because no society is going to grow in any sector, frankly, if people are not able to put aside their short-term interests and think long.
Right. Maybe one day we'll understand that the same societies who can make rockets and go to Mars started by digging into the soil. In that regard. Saratu, thank you very much.
Thanks so much for having me.
the time. We're going to take a short break. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk to farmers. I have two interesting farmers in the house. You'll see once we come back from the break. Right, Publica it is, and that was, you know, some people have accused farming of being the new fad in Nigeria, and that everybody who is cool is going into farming because it looks somewhat like that. Well, I have people in the studio whom I don't know if you would describe them as cool, but they are into farming. And I'd like to start the introduction from the lady on my right-hand side. Mira Mehta is the CEO of Just Tomato. She's an American tomato farmer, and she's into farming and processing in Kaduna. Her farm's based in Kaduna, and she produces tomato paste and other agricultural produce. She's interesting because she previously worked in the financial services and health sector in America before coming to Nigeria to come and become a tomato farmer. Mira,
Funmi,
how are you?
I'm fine.
I have a theory.
Oh, really?
And I'm coming back. I have a theory to why you came, really.
Tell me.
And I'm coming back in a second. Because first, I want everybody to meet Rotimi Williams, who's my next guest. Mr. Rotimi Williams operates the second largest by landmass rice farm in Nigeria. He was a banker himself, and his farm is based in Nasarawa, where he uses a partnership model to manage farmland and produce paddy rice for off-takers. He's also what is called a returnee in Nigeria. And a little bird told me also that he is an artist in another part of his life. So, Mr. Williams,
yes.
Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
Both of you are very interesting. And you are cool people going into agriculture. I will start with Mira, whom I was told, or I believe, came and fell in love with a Nigerian man. First off,
I never kiss and tell, so I got to keep that one on the DL.
That's a great answer. But Mira, Nigeria and tomato farming is so far-fetched, the idea of it.
It is. It really is. I actually came to Nigeria first in 2008 to work for a nonprofit.
Yes.
And while I was there, I met some friends who got me turned on to the idea that every problem in Nigeria is actually an opportunity. And there's opportunities everywhere you look, if you look at it through that lens, and agriculture was one of them. Tomatoes, if you drive around the northern part of Nigeria, there's certain times of year, around right now, when tomato prices are down, that you actually see tomatoes just lining the sides of the road because the farmers don't have anything to do with them. They can't sell them. The value of the basket is more than the tomatoes inside the basket. And so it was really that image combined with the fact that I was learning how to cook jollof rice, stew. They both use tomato. I looked at the back of the can. It said made in China. I'm looking at this thing like, I saw the tomatoes. I'm looking at the can. Can we just get this thing to work together? But I didn't really have the courage to do it at that time. It took me 5 years between having the idea to actually putting it in motion.
We're going to talk about those 5 years and actually how you got it going. But that's a really great story to tell. Because for years, I've known that in Ondo, I remember a farmer saying to me once, Auntie Funmi, take the pineapple. I have no use for it. It was his produce, and he was like, if you want it, take it. There's nothing to do because he couldn't sell it. For you, Rotimi, why? Banking, usually when you're a banker in Nigeria, that's loud spending, prestige, inside black Jeep, G-Wagon, and everything is fine. Why would you leave that?
I guess even moving back in the first place, I was poached by the bank here to move.
Where were you originally?
I was in England. I was working with Euromoney magazine. Yes, so I was
That's
poached.
a nice
gig. It was decent. I traveled a lot.
Yeah.
I covered Africa, so I got to see a lot of what was going on in the other African countries, right? And it kind of hit me at that point that look, it's time to go home. There's a wave. And I wanted to be part of it. And, it was happening within the agri sector. But in Nigeria, we're still focusing on the oil and gas sector. So I knew the time was right to move back home and join the sector.
Why did you choose Nasarawa?
So Nasarawa wasn't a choice per se. So immediately after I left banking, I tried to raise funds to create a fund for agric. That was a failure. Let's just leave it there. So I decided to consult, and part of the consulting was to consult for small farms who wanted to raise money for expansion. So the farm in Nasarawa was one of the farms I consulted for. Raised the money was $130 million, and it was guaranteed by NERSAL, but we couldn't draw down on the money because of some missing documents. CBN wouldn't write a guarantee that they will cover NERSAL. So I lost all my traveling money sitting down with bankers, and I asked the owner of the farm to compensate me. And he said he didn't have any cash. So I asked, okay, look, let's 50-50 the farm. And he agreed. So that was sort of my first step into farming, and the location was already there. Right. So I just basically took it and expanded around with it.
There's a part of that story that my brain is going around with, like somebody threw away $130 million, that could have been used. But that's a different part of the story. I mean, Mira, you went to Kaduna. 5 years it took you, and then you ended up in Kaduna. You're a single woman.
Well, my love life is complicated. Let me just leave it at that.
The reason why I made that, because it's an iconic image of a woman coming on her own and doing this sort of thing. So don't worry, I'm not being Nigerian auntie asking you to get married. No, I'm just saying that's really iconic.
Thank you.
So 5 years to the journey, where did you start? How did you zero in on Kaduna?
Well, I actually started in Nasarawa as well. When I first wanted to get back into Nigeria, I was in business school. I had some Nigerian friends who were egging me on, saying, you've got the background now, you know how to do the numbers. Why don't you just see if this business that you keep talking about can actually work? Does it have legs? So I spent some time doing a business plan, doing desk research, made a couple trips back to Nigeria, met with some people, and decided, I really want to do this. Initially, I was in Nasarawa State, again, because it was an opportunity. I met somebody who was a large farmer who said, you can actually live in this chicken coop and you can farm on this little piece of land for free. And I said, great, because I have no money. So, I can prove out what I want to do. I have this huge vision, but this is a way to get started. And Kaduna was one of over 10 states that I visited over a 2-year time period. The specific location that we're in is one of over 150 different farmlands that we visited to try and find the one that was just right for us.
Right.
But
What's the size of the farm?
500 hectares.
Is
It's
that
nothing
big?
compared to his.
That's huge.
That's huge. I mean, that's huge. Farming in Nigeria. When I look at your Instagram, it looks like all fun and games. I want to be a farmer. Is it all fun and
No,
games?
it's not. I'm paying the price now, actually. I'm paying the price because I was still telling Mira earlier on that the part most people don't see. So I'll give you an example. So last year, for 6 months, I'll take a 1 hour 15 journey to the farm and a 1 hour 15 journey back from the farms, just sitting there anxiously, almost waiting to be attacked on the way. And doing that day in, day out for 6 months, when we get back from the farm, the first thing I do is pop my headache pills because I'm going to get a headache from the tension. And, down the line, you start dealing with anxiety attacks and things like that. That's the price you pay for farming in Nigeria today. And it's taking its toll on people. A lot of people go through these things and nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's very difficult. Every day you switch on the TV now, it's one person's been kidnapped on their farm or someone's been killed on the farm. And, it's just depressing. And I've paid a huge price for what I've been able to achieve.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Because that mental picture of doing that over and over again, I know that is not good, And of course, behind all this conversation is the big issue of the header controversy. I'm very careful to use the words because I want to ensure that at least in some part of the media, we don't make it an ethnic issue. We make it a crime issue for what it is. I'll come back to you, Rotimi. Mira, what are your own challenges? One, what part of it is good? What part of it is not so good?
Wow. The part of it that I love the most is when I get to see the excitement that I have about the vision that I have and what I'm trying to build reflected in my team. At this point, we've been able to build a really awesome team. It's not just me. I'm not doing it by myself, and having other people when I walk through the fields and I'm talking to one of my irrigators or, I'm in the factory and I'm talking to one of my engineers and I see how excited they are about what we're trying to achieve. That part is what gives me the energy. That part is what makes it feel like, okay, this dream is bigger than me. This dream is, actually catching in so many other people. The hard parts, farming is a heartbreaking business. Nigeria can be a heartbreaking country. Like Rotimi said, the stuff that you see on Instagram is like the best of the best, right? And there's so many other things that happen. So, just to give you an example, for us, we farm in the dry season. Tomato is a dry season crop, which means you need irrigation. Water is life, they say, right? And it's absolutely true. And, the things that we don't put on video or on camera are when the pump station breaks down at 2 a.m. And I've got guys who are living on the farm who haven't seen their families in weeks because they have to be there 24/7 because when this thing goes down, they have to get their flashlights out, get their headlamps on, go down there, stand waist deep in water, try and figure out what went wrong, what's leaking, what's broken down, and get it fixed because the plants are thirsty. They've got to drink the water. So those kinds of things, these operational breakdowns, especially when they happen in a context with poor infrastructure, there aren't great roads, there's not great power. I don't have a good service provider that I can call and say, hey, my pump went down. Can you come and replace it? Those are the kinds of things that you really have to, they say you have to be your own LGA to run a business in this country, and it's absolutely true. And that can get really tiring and expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine. You spoke there about your engineers, because oftentimes it's not clear to people just how many different kind of special skill and knowledge is required to get a farm going. And that's just, one part of it. Never mind the processing, the moving it to the ports, where I know there are issues even with security at the ports, and there's so many bits of it. But to give an idea of just how powerful a farm or farming is, how many people, are you employing? How many people would you have been employing were things a little different?
Yeah, so we have 60 full-time employees right now, plus about 30 different what we call crop security, local security guys that are around just protecting the crops from cattle and just checking out the environment. And then we have, on any daily basis, we'll have anywhere from probably 20 to 200 day laborers that are doing work with us. A lot of the work is still extremely manual. You know, if we were in a more automated environment, we would probably have, 10 laborers on a seasonal basis instead of 200.
Yeah.
And we would maybe have, the same 30 people on our farming team, instead of managing the size of land they're managing, would be able to manage something 5-6 times larger.
Right.
So, there certainly are drawbacks to the method of farming here. But on the other side of it, the flip side is that it means that we're providing more jobs, and it means that more people are having a positive impact, just by our being in that community. And so I see that as a positive, even though, of course, it's very hard to manage people.
Right. Rotimi, we cannot get away from the security bits. We cannot get away from security issues in Nigeria right now in any area. But with farming, it has become kind of hyper-focused. There are farmers all across the country talking about, encroachment on their lands. There are, herders also who have issues. I mean, everybody seems to have issues. Be specific as to what you are dealing with in Nasarawa in the first instance. Have you, for example, had any, security issues that have impacted on the farming? I'm not even going to go to the emotional issues. They're big, that is big. But in terms of actually even being able to carry on and do what you're doing at the scale you're doing it, how has security been a drawback?
Yeah, okay, so I'll start with an example. So I think it was 2016 or 2017 when 71 people were killed in Agatu in Benue. If you look, when they deployed the IGF police and the army, it was to Tunga, it was to my farm. So supposedly that's where the attackers took off from, crossed the River Benue and carried out the attacks. Now what happens is the reprisal comes in this direction. And then I'm also across from Wokari, which is a troubled community in Taraba. So every time there's conflict there between the Tiv and the Drukon, again, my farm is where they come. So it's very difficult for you to access funding and expand within such a scenario, because then there's no guarantee of you recouping your investment, right? So those are the sort of challenges where you find yourself adapting to your environment and constantly re-strategizing every season just to stay in business. So instead of expanding on Nasarawa, I rather move location somewhere else and be flexible season by season, being able to move from one place to the other just to keep producing that same crop. But what it then does, it limits you in terms of your expansion on any one piece of land. That is the price of paying now. And it's going to become even worse because it's now happening in every single state of the country where there's insecurity. Insecurity happens in the rural area where you have about 80% of the food we consume here, right, is produced in the rural area, right? About 90% of people you meet in the rural area are farmers. So anything that affects the rural area obviously affects your food supply. And that's the picture I don't think Nigeria gets at this very point where we are, is that whatever is going on in the rural community is going to affect your ability to feed.
I don't think that's the way, because already food prices have gone up exponentially. I would think that with the size of your farm, you should have been able to get some sort of support from government directly with security on the farm, especially given the drive of this current government, in agriculture. Did you not get any? I mean, that's not a solution, but at least in terms of your investment and operation, I would have thought it would be key to help to secure that sort of operation.
Okay, so, back to what I was saying about strategy. So when we saw that wasn't going to happen, I had to partner with the Nigerian Army through the Nigerian Army Farms and Ranches to use one of the Army land. They have about 3,000 hectares in Shendam in Plateau State. They're basically the largest landowners across the country because they've got a lot of land. Right, so I partnered with them to produce on their land and do a profit split. And in turn, they gave me land and security. And that was the only way I could produce last year. Right? We may do that this year. Depends on what the future holds in the next 2-3 months. We don't know, right? But Nasara, because of the incident that happened, I mean, I think they killed about 8 or 9 soldiers about a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember the exact number now. But that's only in Nasara. That's in Kefi. And they said they now moved to the border between Nasara and Taraba or Benue, which is where my own family is. So there's no way I'm going to put money on the ground there without having full information as to what exactly is going on in terms of security.
Wow, it's heavy stuff, man. Mira, is there any, you don't have security issues of that scale, do you?
Well, I would say that security issues are a challenge across the country, Definitely, I mean, we've seen all of these school kidnappings that don't seem to be going away. And, the Kaduna state government, I think, has a pretty strong commitment to trying to make the state more secure. But it's tough when it's all over the place and it's very opportunistic. In our area, it's more about kidnappings and banditry, right? It's about what can I get, can I get 2 million naira off this person? Can I get 3 million naira off this person? And so what the government has been doing has been especially focusing on the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway to try and make that place more secure. But the challenge is that, of course, then as the bandits that have been operating in that axis are displaced, they're moving into other areas. And so we are seeing in our area an increase in crime because the normal place where they would be earning their bread, for better or worse, is now inaccessible to them. So we have seen some increases, but we've also seen increases in roadblocks, checkpoints and things like that. And we also do try to partner with the state government and with Operation Yaki and NSCDC and a few of the other security forces within Nigeria to try and provide some additional security to our investment. It's tough, but for us, the partnership that we've been able to develop with the local community also acts as a buffer.
I was going to ask that question, though. That's cool. That's because I spent some time with a community in Benin, and I saw that the community was involved, with the farming, there was a laboratory and all of that. They didn't work there, and they protected your operation is large, so I don't know what size of people both of you would need, but is there anything to be said before we challenge the government to do more? Because, we are going to have a further conversation with those. This show, we talk to the police and army and, all of the time, and everything comes back to them and their capacity. But then, in the short run, in terms of sustainability for your enterprise, for this remarkable enterprise that you guys have started, is there anything to be said for communities actually protecting the farms?
Well, I think for communities to protect the farm will require them to carry firearms. And that, again, is illegal, so they can't. Even if they could afford firearms, not the sort of firearms that these bandits are using. They're using JPMGs. The most a vigilante in the farm will be able to use is a 6-round shotgun, which does nothing. You see, so even if you did want to secure, they don't have the capacity to do so. Right? Even if the police wanted to intervene, they did not build the roads to do so. They do not have the right vehicles, the right equipment to do so. They don't have the right intelligence to do so. Same goes for the army as well. You see, how involved are they in the community across the entire country? It's a network. It's a network. People move from community to community to community. How present are you in those places to be able to secure? If we don't do that, then food security is going to be a huge challenge in the next 18 to 24 months.
You were speaking about your own community engagements. How's that different?
Well, one of the things that we do is we invite farmers onto our land allocation to farm within our farmland. So we have, our own commercial farm, which we do, with tractors and our own farm operations team, but then we have half of our farm that's dedicated to the farmers in the community who come in and farm very, very small plots of land. The reason we do that is because tomatoes are really hard to grow, and we're trying to change over 100 behaviors in the farmers that we're working with, because we eventually want them to grow for us as outgrowers, but they have to first be ingrowers. They have to first be under very, very close supervision. they find a lot of value in that program. And actually, they don't want to leave once they get onto the land. They want to stay as in-growers. They don't want to graduate to become outgrowers. But through that relationship, we've been able to build trust. We give them loans. They pay us back in tomatoes. We're able to get, at this point, I think a 97, 98% return on our loans. So they actually are earning money out of the program. They're getting something out of it. And so they see value in us being there. And so for us, yes, if there are external bandits, they're probably going to have, better weapons than the local guys that have their machetes and catapults and maybe some local muskets, right? But I think there's a lot of value in the information, right? And in the community knowing who's an outsider and when an outsider is moving in or moving through, and being able to then communicate that back to our company to say, hey, by the way, this thing happened, or we heard this thing that happened in the bush on that side of the road, and so it's that intel that then enables us to then, whether we're calling the government or whether we're calling the local LGA or whoever it is, to say, hey, by the way, we have a tip that something's going on.
Rotimi, why are you still doing it?
I think that's a stubborn nature. I believe in the project itself. I believe that Nigeria has to feed itself. I believe that when you start something, you must finish, because since I started, a lot of people have gone into agriculture watching, right? And that responsibility is on you not to quit and keep leading people, and with all the challenges, you also now have a voice to speak up and address some of these challenges. And that's what I'm looking at now, is how do we move from a point of just farming to advocacy to action? That position. And
the scale of farming you're doing is also quite, impressive. So therefore, you speaking so strongly about how much impact security has on what you're doing brings to the front of the front burner, because it's already on the front burner. Right. These security issues need to be taken more seriously, and solutions have to become more ingenious going forward. And I don't know what solutions what would you be advocating?
Okay, so I believe that everyone also has a part to play, right? So last year, 2 years ago, right, I launched Resolo 4.0, which is just a basic panic alert app, right? And distributed it in the community in Basa local government in Plateau State, whereby in the villages, once you feel there's an imminent attack or ongoing attack, push the panic button. Immediately I get an alert of your name, your phone number, your location, and I push out to the army, and then the army moves in to quell whatever issues are ongoing. And in that period...
So that's the information bit you were talking about.
Absolutely.
Yes, in that period we've had about 215, 220 panic alerts. I've had just about 90 people killed, hundreds of houses burnt and hundreds of people displaced from their homes. In one local government alone, there were still 6 people killed 3 days ago. It's that bad, and all that information comes to me, you see, and we try as much as possible to draw the data from that so that the security forces understand better what exactly is going on in these places, time of attack, frequency of attack, point of attack, mode of attack. All that data is pulled out and given to them too.
What's your hope?
Wow.
What's your hope for both of you? What's the hope? I can already hear and I understand this fear of possible and imminent food failure if we don't get a grasp of the security situation. I know already, even the ports that have been built for exports, because of security fears, people are not wanting to use them. Yeah. They want to stay with the Lagos port, which is over congested and so on and so forth. So the problems, as Saratu said earlier, they are all interwoven. It's almost like you sit down and say, you do this, and we do, that's what will work. But give me something to go with.
So I'm an optimist at heart. I think you have to be a little bit optimistic. You have to be a lot stubborn. You have to be a little bit crazy to sort of do what Rotimi and I are doing.
I wasn't going to be the one to say that. Glad you said it.
But I also believe in capitalism as a force of good, and I really do think that by creating opportunities, by creating value, by providing rural people with more income and more opportunities for more income, we are actually creating more stability in our area. You know, crime rates have gone down in the Kangimi area since we've been there because people are gainfully employed, because they're able to see ways for them to use either their education or their know-how or their physical capabilities to actually earn something and to have agency in their lives. And so my hope is that, you know, more and more businesses can come in and live through the hard early years and survive and be willing to do the hard stuff at the beginning, because the beginning is really hard. We're just about to turn the corner now. We're finally at the point where I think we're really going to start, you know, getting our name out there, launching our brand and all that, you know, 6 years in. But I hope that other companies will come in and build those kinds of businesses that do employ people, that do add value, that do spread wealth throughout the rural communities.
Just at that point, and I'm coming to you, Rotimi, I just wanted to say to both of you that I don't know if you know there's a young man in Jos, Benny, who owns Benny, who makes agricultural equipment.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I've been telling everybody, look at him. He's making, you know, the machines to harvest rice, to destone rice. He can, if you have a problem, he and his team will create the machine for you. He's your man. The kind of person you are is the kind of person he is. He was given he worked himself from nothing, got a scholarship to go to the UK to study engineering, and then it was like, actually it's not working, came back home, got other young men and women, about almost 50 of them now, who are like him together, and they started a company and they make agricultural solutions, tools for agri communities in their community. Because it's the value chain again. If he gets work from you, the young men and women who ordinarily will be recruited into crime, you know, will see that there are other ways to do it. So please, I mean, I'm just linking all the good people together here in that regard. I just wanted to make that point that I can, and I'm happy to give you his number, you know, that sort of thing. I'm always astounded that he's there making all these tools. But Rotimi, going back to where Mira stopped, where is the hope for you? You know, show me where the light is.
Honestly, I think the size, the quantum of the issue we're dealing with is nothing that one corporate can deal with or one individual can deal with. I think the government itself has to realize the weight and begin to address it properly without allowing ethnicity, religion, tribe, whatever, to come into their judgment.
Yeah.
Because if you look at what is going on in the Southwest, it's horrible. What is going on in the Northeast, Northwest is horrible. And these are the places where food primarily is produced and exchanged.
Right.
So by the time you have this divide, I'm a Southerner who farms in the North. If you're killing Northerners in the South, then how secure am I going into the North? Do you see? So there are a lot of questions that need to be asked, raised, and a lot of issues need to be dealt with. But I believe that the government itself has a huge role to play in terms of security. First of all, security. Without that, nothing else will work. So we need to deal with the security challenges. I think that's the key point for me. After that, anything else happens. No investment will happen if you can't secure it.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge I'm having now is, where do I want to farm? Where is secure? I don't even care if it's conducive for rice. I'll make it conducive. Just show me somewhere where there's no conflict, where I can sit down. I'm not afraid of being kidnapped. I know that nobody will be killed, and I can harvest my rice in peace and take to the market.
Right. I can't promise you that, but I can promise that I'll take it out there, and maybe somebody will do something about it in that regard. I mean, I thank both of you for coming. I find both of you really inspirational. You know, both of you have actually moved, you from America to Kaduna, you from the UK and southern part of Nigeria to the northern part of Nigeria, particularly at a time where there's tension between those two, to be doing this amazing, second largest in terms of land mass. It's remarkable. And I really think that you guys are great people, you know, and thank you, you know, for doing what you do. I also thank my earlier guest, Saratu. What we will do is take this conversation to the authorities and just present to them and ask them, you know, the issues right now are security. You know, from this show, that's what I've got, security. I don't know if there's actually, I'm sure there are other issues, but we have to layer the other issues on securing the land and the communities where the people are going to be able to farm, and also bringing small communities together into larger farms so that we can build an ecosystem that's prosperous, from bottom up, coming out that way. That's what I got from the show. So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's a good one. All right. Thank you both for
Thank you very
traveling
much.
all the way
Thank you.
to dissociated Lagos.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
It's
you
a
very much.
pleasure.
Thank you very much. That's our show today. You can join the conversation. You can join us on YouTube. You can join us on Facebook. You can join us on Twitter and Instagram. It's Public Eye NG. If you have other contributions to make, send them to us. If you have challenges to the authorities, send them to us. We'll take it to them. If they don't answer, we'll tell you they didn't answer. If they answered, we'll tell you this is what they said. Remember, we're watching you so that you too can watch yourself. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye now.